Hello and welcome to another episode of the MenswearStyle Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Brooker. On this episode, I'm going to be speaking to Kevin Ellis, the founder of Ellis Rugby. Ellis Rugby, these are the guys that are totally committed to producing quality garments which are inspired by similar like-minded individuals from the rich history of the game of rugby. Makes sense, rugby in the title. So a little bit about Kevin Ellis. He was born and bred in the county of Yorkshire. Kevin's passion for the game combined with his love of design and fashion are the driving force behind Ellis Rugby. And the appeal of Ellis Rugby lies in the striking designs, stylish colour choices and the exceptional quality of the fabrics. Kevin's a really interesting guy and we're going to get into that interview shortly. First, make sure you're checking out the website menswearstyle.co.uk. That's where we'll put all the show notes and links from this interview, along with other news features, trend, travel features, competitions, all that lovely stuff. And why not follow us on the social? Just type in Menswear Style in your smartphone there. We'll come up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You know the drill by now. If you want to get in touch with the show, maybe you want to come on and talk about your brand, give us an insight into your journey, then info@menswearstyle.co.uk. Okay, it's the place to send your emails. In the meantime, here we are now with that interview with Kevin Ellis, company founder of Ellis Rugby. It is my great pleasure to speak to Kevin Ellis, the founder of Ellis Rugby. How are we doing today, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm real good. Thanks again for taking time out of your day to speak to us. I'm very curious to find out about your brand. For those that are uninitiated, perhaps you can give us an introduction to who you are and the founding story of Ellis Rugby, please.
Yeah, sure. My name's obviously Kevin Ellis. I'm sort of founder and managing director of Ellis Rugby. My background is a little bit unusual because I'm from a sporting background, but also a design background. Sort of enjoyed a 10-year career playing professional rugby, but at the same time worked in the advertising and marketing industry. Ellis Rugby is a combination of my passion, really, design and rugby, combining both. About 2010, I'd sort of become a little bit disillusioned with, the advertising industry, and I was looking for something new to work on. There are lots of sort of so-called heritage fashion brands, and I just felt there was an opportunity for a rugby-inspired fashion label. So rather than just giving lip service to heritage, I wanted to build a brand that, as well as being sort of great high-quality garments, also told a story. So each of our garments has its own unique story to it.
So did you have a background in pattern making? How did you go about the design process?
No, I think there was definitely a knowledge gap. My sort of, like I say, previous experience had been very much in design and marketing. So from a design perspective, I had all the skills, but I just had to adapt those skills, to sort of garment manufacturing. So like I say, there was a big knowledge gap, something that, I've subsequently sort of covered. But I had to learn, basically, producing garment specs, buying, and then, of course, all the other things that comes with it, sort of menswear distribution and everything else managing the business.
I see. And what's the size of the business then, Kevin? How big of an operation was it to begin with, and how's it grown now?
Well, we're still only fairly small. I've got 4 people who work alongside me, and then obviously we've got a couple of sales agents as well. But, they're not employed. They work on a commission basis.
And what would you say from your rugby background? Maybe we can talk a little bit about your rugby background. So who did you play for?
Well, I played, I played originally sort of rugby union, and then I sort of signed for rugby league, when I was about 17. And I wasn't the greatest player, I have to say, but I played second division for 10 years, and had a great time doing it. I loved the game. And, being a sort of semi-professional athlete was, great fun. So yeah.
Would you say there's... now, don't let me put words in your mouth, Kevin, but I've often thought this about, especially rugby, and I guess the equivalent for American would be American football, that it's actually a really good discipline to have a sport like that, almost like boxing, where it's a lot more intense. You're kind of thinking on your feet, but with more brawn than you are, say, with football, where you can go down easily and feint injuries and get free kicks. With rugby, there seems to be a little bit more of grit. And maybe a bit more intestinal fortitude that comes with that. Do you feel like that's something that maybe every kid should train how to play rugby?
Well, I mean, it's not suitable for sort of some young kids, but it's got lots of, great values. I as well as playing, I sort of did a fair amount of coaching as well. And I've got two boys who've gone and are still playing rugby to this day. And at least a lot of the values that come through, particularly when you're coaching junior rugby, is sort of respect, for the opposition, respect for the officials and the referees. And also, it was important to sort of instill in them that, there's the social element as well after the game. So, again, you always want to compare it with football. Maybe there's an argument that they don't have the same, same values in football, but I don't think so. I think it's a case of, the coaches and the culture within the game. So, I don't want to be slagging football off.
No,
it's a great game as well, So,
but
it's obviously the sport that you compare it with.
It is nuts to me, and we will get back to Ellis Rugby, the brand, very quickly, I promise. But I was just, I've always wanted to kind of get to grips with this concept, and you probably have heard this a lot, how there seems to be, with football, there's more connotations, or at least in the past, with hooliganism, violence, etc. Yet it's not a very hands-on sport. Now, contrast that with rugby, where it's nothing but contact. It's nothing but, locking horns and getting down and wrestling people. Yet the culture around that is completely the antithesis to football. There's no fights in the grounds, after the grounds, there's no kind of tribal warfare. What do you put that down to?
I just think it's culture of the game. It's how it's always been played. It's how people are encouraged to support the club in a respectful way. And most people actually, do respect those values of the game. Football's a bit more difficult. No, I mean, and we there's a tendency to tar everybody with the same brush. I mean, football's a fantastic game. I love it. But there are a small element of football supporters that do, have that sort of hooligan element to them, which is a real shame, because it spoils it for everyone else.
Yeah. No, it's just nuts. I've always thought that, even from a young age, how there seems to be there's a line in the sand between the culture of football fans and rugby fans.
Yeah.
Anyway, course correcting. Getting back to Ellis Rugby. Thanks for indulging. I'm curious, what distinguishes Ellis Rugby from other brands within the marketplace, would you say?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the main element that I wanted to bring through in my garments was heritage. And to be a genuine heritage brand. I mean, like I say, there's lots of brands sort of on the high street who supposedly are heritage brands, but actually, it's only skin deep. You scratch under the surface, and there's not much heritage about the sport that they're involved with. What I try to do with my garments is each of the garments has an individual story to it. And I think I'm more of a I suppose from my advertising design background, I'm more of a concept designer than a garment designer. So what I tend to do is like look for a story, generate a story, and then around that story, I then design the garments, the colours, the trims, the sort of badging that often my garments have. So I think that makes me quite different. Two great examples, if I may. We're at sample stage of a collection that we're calling the Pioneers Collection, and this is based on the formation of rugby in various countries. One of the concepts we're doing is a collection based on the USA Olympic team, and it was back in the 1920 Olympics, and the founder of the modern Olympics, Baron Pierre de Coubertin, was actually the organizer of the 1920 Olympics in Antwerp in Belgium. And one of the sports that he wanted to put on, for entertainment was rugby. Obviously, France has got a big history of rugby. And the other country that they actually invited to the tournament was the United States. And the US Olympic Committee actually formed a pool of players, and these were from Stanford, Berkeley, and Santa Clara. And they actually went on an 8-week trip from New York over to Antwerp and actually played in this one-off game. And unbelievably, the USA actually defeated France 8-0 to win the Olympic gold medal. So the USA, who were not particularly renowned for their rugby, were the actual gold medal winners. And then in 1924, at the next games, which were held in Paris, they played in a round-robin tournament, the USA, France, and Romania, and the USA actually won a game. Now, you sort of wonder, oh, well, that's a great story. But actually what the team were wearing, they were wearing sort of unusual jerseys. The badging on it was a fantastic sort of, typical stars and stripe badge on there. And prior to the game, they wore either sort of an ecru jersey or a navy jersey. And the navy jersey actually had these fantastic wings coming out of the crest. So it's all those elements, and you put that together with a story, with the garments. And that's what I mean by being a genuine heritage brand. And then, what I also looked at is, I incorporated text on the design. So looking at the typography around 1920 and 1924, we incorporated that in the designs, and it produced like a T-shirt, a sort of sweatshirt, hoodie, and various other things, a polo shirt as well. So cool. It actually has a lovely story behind it, which I thought, which is a good example really of what we do.
I love that. Yeah. I think it's... Sorry, Carol.
No, and I was just going to say, that's we actually cover both rugby union and, being a northern boy, obviously rugby league as well. And an interesting one on the rugby league side, which we've just, probably about 6 weeks ago, sort of launched a mini range, like a capsule range really, through our Hall of Fame rugby league collection, and it's based on the 1958 Great Britain tour to Australia. And I don't know if you know much about the rugby league side of things, but they play like an Ashes series, a bit like they do at cricket.
Okay.
And it's 3 games between Great Britain and Australia. And in the first test in Sydney, Australia easily beat Great Britain 25-8. The second test was in Brisbane, and it was a really tough game. No subs were allowed in those in the 1950s.
Wow.
One of the standoff, Dave Bolton, actually came off with a dislocated shoulder. But the most amazing thing about the game was that the captain, a chap called Alan Prescott from St Helens, actually broke his arm in the tackle in the 3rd minute of the game. But because the team were already down short by one man, he continued playing for the full 80 minutes. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's what I'm talking about with the grit. That's what I'm talking. Can you imagine Ronaldo carrying on with a broken arm?
I know. It's crazy. And then, of course, what they went on is the third test. They won the second test 28-18. And then the third test, they won. They beat the Aussies easily, 40 points to 17 at the SCG.
So they won the series?
Yeah, they won the series. Now, what is different about this particular garment is something we've introduced to it. Is we've actually built into a sort of decorative woven label is a microchip, and the microchip once can be scanned by a mobile phone, and then that automatically links to our website, which automatically plays a video of those test series. So we managed to get all the clips, from archive, which is unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh wow, that's amazing!
And you don't need an app.
Right.
It's actually built-in sort of technology that you can just scan, the woven label, and automatically the story of the garment comes up on your mobile phone, which I think is fantastic. And it's the sort of thing is what I mean. What makes us different? Well, that's a good example, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about distinguishing yourself from other brands. I mean, I love the personal stories as well, because for me, when I wear garments, I always like to tell people what I'm wearing and why I've bought it. And if I've got something that I can, amuse someone with or pique their interest for all of 2 or 3 minutes, they might say, "Oh, I like what you're wearing there." And I'll be like, "Oh, great. Well, this is from such and such a film worn by such and such a dude." But having something else to wear, but not just wearing things for the sake of wearing things. I think that's really what the basis of fashion for me is all about, is kind of representing something within yourself that you want to communicate, either subliminally or very obviously.
Yeah. But it's just trying to get over that story. We call it the Storyteller microchip that's in the garments. So what we're trying to do is actually tell a story with the garment. It's a gimmick, I admit it, but actually it's just an interesting addition, and it really again bolsters, our positioning statement, the rugby heritage brand.
Yeah. The website, by the way, ellisrugby.com. I should say this for people that might be listening to this and going, well, look, I'm not kind of massively sold on rugby. It's not really my thing. You might not be liking rugby, but you will like vintage designs. Trust me, because these rugby shirts look fantastic, especially for me, the vintage look of the 60s. The insignia, the bold colours, like the Australian ones, just look beautiful. I mean, I'd lap those up in a heartbeat. Did you have any other concerns with the vintage look as opposed to, modernising it and bring it into a newer phase?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really wanted to be a sportswear brand. I think, I want to be a lifestyle fashion brand. So all my products are 100% cotton. The rugby jerseys are a really sort of heavyweight peach finish to them, which are fantastic. And they've got, all the trims, we've got, lovely sort of gabardine plackets. We've got herringbone side vents, all the embroidery on the collar stands. They're very different really from sportswear products, and I don't really want to go that way. I always want it to be sort of a fashion brand. The heritage element is really important, because like I say, it's in our DNA almost. We want to tell the story. We want to be different, and the products are really, really exceptional quality.
Well, congratulations, Kevin. I think you've got a fantastic product and a beautiful looking website as well. It's really nice to just navigate and find all the stories, the different videos on there, and all the different range of products. It's not just rugby shirts. Like you say, you've got the sweatpants, accessories, polos, T-shirts. Fantastic. Where are they manufactured?
Yeah, we manufacture from 2 factories based in India, in Tirupur. And, we've had that relationship for quite a number of years now. It's great working with the factories. There's a lot of input from them on the actual designs, as well as obviously the makeup and manufacture. So, it's a good relationship. I'm happy with that.
Can I ask how everything is with the pandemic? Is the supply chain still good? Are they still working out there?
Well, fortunately, we got our supplies in, just before the pandemic. So I have had a couple of emails going backwards and forwards, but there's no doubt it will delay a couple of orders that we've got going through currently. But it's one of those things that nobody can sort of allow for.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know if anyone could see us getting blindsided by this, but
No.
Listen, thank you, Kevin, for taking so much time out of your day to talk about your brand and walk us through the journey. In the meantime, thank you, Kevin. Take care of yourself out there.
No, thank you very much for the invite as well.
Kevin Ellis there. Thank you so much, Kevin. Boy, am I now wanting to get out there and play some rugby. Maybe not play it. Wouldn't mind watching some rugby. That's going to happen soon. Anyway, I digress. EllisRugby.com is the place to go, and make sure you're going there and checking out all those wonderful designs. And in the meantime, menswearstyle.co.uk, that's where you'll find all the show notes to this show. Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing and leaving those reviews on iTunes. It really does mean a lot to us. It gets us high up in the chart and incentivizes us to do more of these interviews. So we really do appreciate that. Until next time, remember, it's only fashion, people, and you're never fully dressed without a smile.